The Joe Rogan Experience with Donald Trump is breaking records. Spotify and YouTube combined together likely already over 50 million views in just over 2 days. And inside that 3-hour marathon conversation, Trump says he would like to get rid of the income tax. But what if that really came to pass? What would it mean for entertainment? Would it save Hollywood? Would it save the Disney parks? Today, we'll discuss it and why the companies that would benefit most say they don't want it. Hello, folks, and happy Monday. Welcome back to the work week, but don't worry because we are here to make it better, bringing you truth with a capital T served up on a silver platter. Today, we've got Mexican Iron Man and Lou Wasserman's Ghost. We call them Mike and LW. Gentlemen, welcome back.
I'm so honored to be a part of that duet. I tell you, truly, Mike, I'm proud to be here.
Well, good to see you, sir. It's been far too long, my old friend.
Yes.
That's right.
I mean, old not as in your age. I meant as in how long ago.
Any day you can do it is a good one, so.
That's right. Folks, one thing you could do for us, click that like button as we get ready to dive in. Today, we're talking about the Joe Rogan thing again, because in that 3-hour marathon conversation between Joe Rogan and Donald Trump, who we presume now, I suppose, to be the front runner overall, although it is contentious, but the guy who looks like he just might be president again, he says that he's ready to drop the income tax. And if he wins, and he does so in a big way, which is a possibility, he might just get both houses of Congress. And then, it's time to take it seriously. How will that impact, though, entertainment? How will that impact theme parks? This would be a seismic shift in the way so many industries work. We concentrate here on this channel on entertainment. Let's talk about it right now. We begin on CNBC. Rebecca Pichotto? I don't know, but we like
Pichotto.
Rebecca. Anyway. Pichotto. Trump doubles down on replacing income taxes with tariffs in Joe Rogan interview. Here's what it says. Former Presidente Donald Trump stood by his idea to end income taxes and substitute them with tariffs. In a Friday interview, no, it's not an interview, it's a conversation, and it's distinctly different, with Joe Rogan, the host of one of the most widely listened to podcasts in the world. No, it's not. It is the most widely listened to podcast in the world. Sorry, Rebecca. I'm being a little harsh, Miss Pichotto. No, that's not how you say it. Yeah, sure, but why not? Trump responded when asked, did you just float out the idea of getting rid of income taxes and replacing it with tariffs? We will not allow the enemy to come in and take our jobs and take our factories and take our workers and take our families unless they pay a big price, and the big price is tariffs, the former president added. And by the way, I think he was attempting to quote a president from the 1880s. A central piece of Trump's economic pitch to voters is an extensive tax overhaul that includes proposals to erode the income tax system and replace it with a hardline tariff policy. He has floated eliminating income taxes on tips, overtime pay, and Social Security benefits, along with renewing his 2017 tax cuts, which are due to expire in 2025. He has also said he would consider income tax exemptions for firefighters, police officers, military personnel, and veterans. It's a lot of changes, guys, and we could sit here and we could debate whether or not it's realistic. That's a possibility, right? And we'll come to that in a moment out of Telegraph. We're not going to at the moment, but we'll come back to it. We could sit and debate whether or not this is realistic, whether or not the income tax will really go away. We can get into the level and the depth of talking about a VAT tax and amendments to the Constitution and all that. Let's set that to the side for the moment.
Please.
Here's what I'd like to focus on. We'll start, Mike, with you because you are a corporate and tax expert and definitely not a YouTuber, although some disagree. Mike, if income tax is radically reduced under a Trump presidency, what would that do to, let's say, the tourism industry? And what would it do to discretionary income in regards to people spending for going to movies and buying video games? Because that's what we're interested in. What would happen? We'll keep it nonpartisan, but what would happen?
Well, I mean, there's two ways to answer this question. There's the corporate answer, and then there's the retail answer. The corporate answer is that...
Which one first? I want both of them.
Well, the corporate answer is easy. The corporate answer is that, in the entertainment industry in general doesn't tend to generate a lot of corporate income tax. And in general, corporate income tax doesn't generate most of the tax that is collected. Famously, anybody can Google what the top 10 or 100 corporations in America pay in tax, and the average rate's anywhere from 3 to 12%. Shit, some of them don't even pay any. So, from an industry's perspective, the entertainment industry is even at the bottom rung of that. There are other industries that pay a lot more corporate income tax. But on the retail side, which is what is more interesting, is that it's pretty simple. If you look at your paycheck, you have FICA, FUTA, SUTA in income tax. State, in some places you have state. If you're in Florida, you don't. Texas, you don't. But in cities and states like Manhattan and California and New York, as a state, you have state tax, state income tax, and
even city taxes in some of those places.
Yeah, like in Manhattan.
Right.
So when you look at it as an individual who's making, say, people get used to this. They're like, "Oh, I'm going to give you $80,000 a year," but their take home is really closer to 55, right? And they're making that 55 stretch because that other chunk. That other 25 grand is just, the 25, 30 grand, is just gone, right? You can make 100 a year. You're probably taking home, depending on where you live, anywhere from 65 to 80 if you're lucky.
And the places that have the highest taxes tend to have the highest cost of living. So that 55 goes less far than where it would go elsewhere. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah. So if you got some more cash, to spend, well, guess what you're going to do? You're going to go to the movies more often. And when you go to the movies, you're going to buy more popcorn. You're going to go on vacations. I was just having a conversation right about the time you asked me to confirm for tonight to film this video. I was talking to my kid, my 11-year-old Max, and he made the observation that although we've only gotten together as a family 6 times this year, which is a lot, he says, he was like, "Dad, we've gone on more vacations than most families, go to in many years." And that's true. That's because I have a lot of disposable income compared to the average other person. So I think the thing is that there are so many families that are struggling in general that there's no money left over to take the kids to Disneyland. In the olden days, you could save up $300, $400, $500, $1,000, maybe even $2,000 or $3,000 and get the family together for a 1 week, heck, even maybe a 2-week vacation. Those days are long since gone because the cost of these things has gone up and the availability of discretionary income has gone down. So if this tax code is radically reformed, well, then I think it would be a massive boost to the economy because tourism, food, beverage, leisure, entertainment, those are things that people spend a ton of money on. And when they have discretionary income, they do go out. They go to bars, they go to restaurants, you're more sociable. Well, you're more social, but when you don't have that money, you don't do any of these things. And that's why I think the movie industry is having such a hard time because the movies that people do want to go to, they'll spend their money on that. But the other stuff that they might want to go to or they might be interested, they just don't go. I love the idea of doing tariffs because it's a flip of what's happening. What we have right now is in the U.S. economy, the average worker, all of you watching this video tonight or tomorrow, whenever you're watching it, all of you watching this video, your tax dollars, one way or another, including factoring in for inflation, are going to fund a government that's spending it all over the place, domestically and a ton of internationally. What Trump wants to do, the tariff idea, is to say the United States has hundreds of millions of people, and there's value to that. So if you want access to our market and you want access to what we consume and what we want to buy and do, well, then we're going to charge you a fee, similar to what Disney does when you want to go to the park. You want to come to the USA park? Well, then we're going to charge you tariffs. And now, instead of the taxes coming out of your paycheck to go and fund missiles in Ukraine and yada, 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 tariffs now are going to be used to fund and supplement the U.S. budget, which would basically help pay down this debt, which is just right now impossible. I've come to the conclusion by looking at the debt load. I don't think this country can mathematically survive another 10 to 25 years. I mean, just if you look at the balance sheet, there's not enough cash flow to service the debt.
Well, and there's 2 ways of looking at this. One way is if you can cut my taxes, I'll have more money. That's swell. The other way, however, is maybe you won't have to as much if where the money comes out is in the spending. In other words, I'm sure if the Republicans win the houses, both of them, there'll be people entertaining ideas like this, but they won't be interested in doing it from a let's spend less and let's pay off the deficit point of view, because everybody's got their little pet project. As the great Illinois Senator Everett Dirksen once said about the federal budget, he said, $1 billion here and $1 billion there, and before you know it, you're talking about real money.
Right. And everybody has a bridge to nowhere that they love. But Lou, Mike brought up the tariff thing, and I want to go to you for expertise in this area in a way that people are not going to hear this on any other channel. I can promise you this. Lou, we don't often talk about your pedigree. And the reason we don't is because you're a humble guy, and because we try to keep you rather anonymous for reasons that are of self-interest to all of us here on the panel. But Lou, you've served at the highest levels in Hollywood. Well, you've held some of the highest possible positions, and you've been involved in crafting the stories and the shows and movies of so many people's memories in a vast way. So, Lou, what I want to ask you is, based on someone who has worked at the very highest levels, understands Hollywood at a level that most people just simply can't fathom, talk about tariffs for a moment. How would it impact where Hollywood goes, where the film productions go, where the shows are made? How would it impact Hollywood if international products and services are getting hit with huge tariffs, meanwhile working domestically is not?
Well, I've heard you in anticipation of this talk discussing this, and I'm not quite sure it will do what you think it does. If we go to make a movie in England because of those tax breaks over there, a tariff on the end result is not going to result from, you shot it in England. To the degree that you buy equipment from there that comes here, yes.
What about CGI, Lou? What about animation?
I'll never forget the first time I saw a video that was made of George Lucas sitting in Marin County directing a voiceover session in Australia, because the speed of everything was fast enough that they didn't have to get together in the same room anymore, that they didn't have to make those trips. So in that sense, the world is all the same thing. But as far as tariffs are concerned, a foreign movie isn't going to get a tariff put on it. But the physical properties that may change hands certainly will. I tell you what it'll do. It will give an incentive for what's already happening in light of the whole Chinese thing, which is rehoming certain industries, rehoming manufacturing of certain things. That's now happening anyway, because the businesses, A, politically are worried about it, but secondly, they found out they thought, hey, we'll do a couple deals with the Chinese and we'll suddenly have a market of 1 billion more people. Didn't work out that way. Didn't work out that way at all.
Much to their chagrin, because so many resources were poured into trying to conquer the Chinese burgeoning box market, and China has the Communist Party has basically said, no, we're not going to be influenced by America.
Well, but it's not just the party; it's the fact that their people are unemployed. It's the fact that they've built all these cities that are empty to keep people working. The market isn't there the way they thought it would be. I gave you a link just now. A story that says, because of inflation and people's experience of it now, it's going to change people's behavior as far as going to Disney World or whatever for years, because they're going to say, we did that. The perfect example, when everybody came back from COVID and suddenly everybody went to the parks because there was this pent up demand of people, and they got their one in. And what they found was, A, it was not as good as it used to be. B, it was twice as much money as it used to be. And C, if Disney, which openly said we're trying to make back what we didn't get during that period, well, the customers had to make that back too. The customers, oh boy, we got it out of our system, but we're not going to go every year. We're going to go every 2 or 3 years, or at least not again for another year or two. But some people don't seem to get that, like people in the $25 a slice cake business don't seem to understand that. But this is, we talk about our grandparents having learned frugality from going through living the Depression. This period of time is going to teach lessons to people about being a little more careful with their spending that no matter what happens to the tax system, they're going to say, I think we better wait and see a little bit. And a little bit times millions of people suddenly becomes a big deal.
Very, very great commentary, Lou. And people are learning things, and I'm learning things that we simply would not know unless we had somebody who's walked through Hollywood at the highest levels and understands how this plays out.
I think the only thing about Hollywood,
Lou, you're incredibly astute. When I went back into COVID with the family, when was it, 21 or 22?
Yeah.
It would have been 22. When things were really cleared up. I'm talking about Los Angeles, California.
Right.
I remember that exact experience. I was like, when were the turkey legs this expensive? When was the merch this expensive? I mean, it was shocking. It was shocking to me how much money we were spending. And of course, I was trying to lightning lane everything. It was shocking to me how much money we were spending for one day of 6 people. Because I had volunteered to take, the family, and two of my relatives have annual passes. The rest of us didn't. I was in shock. And the second thing that I wasn't shock. It was exactly what you hit the nail on the head with, which is that the park looked tired. It looked old. It didn't have any magic. I have no incentive unless I were some kind of Disney pixie duster. I have no reason to go back. It would be like it felt like a strip mall more. It felt more like a strip mall that had lost its luster than it did the most magical place.
And real quick, Mike, one of the reasons for that is because in the pandemic, both Disneyland and Disney World essentially let go of their employees and then had to rehire them back. And guess what? You can't just rehire anybody to replace decades of knowledge and wisdom and the, what they've earned over all that time of knowing how this works and this works and this is how you make a guest happy and this is the Disney way. All
Take
that
it real simple.
20-year-olds who didn't care.
Pro, go even simpler than that. I have no idea before or after the pandemic what the numbers of janitorial people at Disneyland were. But I do know that if the people working there now are not those people who were there for 20 years and cared, there are that many fewer people who, when they see a piece of trash on the ground, will pick it up. Multiplied by thousands of employees over weeks and months and years, and you get what we've got.
Right.
People
and then you start
who were not ingrained in the culture of giving a damn that much.
Yep. And then you stop hiring based on merit and you start hiring based on immutable differences, the way someone was born. And it's a recipe for disaster because you're no longer looking at the individual, you're looking at tribalism. Mike, I want to go to you for a question that seems obvious to me, but will be unobvious to many watching. They're going to get a quick lesson in this. And folks, I think you'll enjoy. Mike, it seems to me that it behooves Disney and other entertainment companies that a lower income tax come to pass, right? Because that opens up the economy. People have more discretionary income to start spending on the fun stuff, whether it's gaming or movies or TV shows or streaming platforms or the cute little plushies, whatever they're going to buy, right? Rose Tico dolls for everyone. And yet, Mike, those companies seem not to want that. They don't want that tax structure. Why?
I'm not quite sure what. Okay, you're asking me as that's a. Look, if you're on the Democrat side of the aisle, you want as much tax as you can to spend as much money as you can on whatever ridiculous programs that you can.
And why is that good for the corporations, Mike? Why do they want it?
Well, the more that you create tax, the more that you create income tax, the more you create special programs like guess what in California? There's a film credit system in California. Guess what governor of guess what state wants even more money for the tax credit system to subsidize Hollywood? Anyone?
Is it that that gourmet guy, Newsom?
It would be, yes, indeed.
Who, by the way, Mr. Trump,
you've got the same thing going on in the UK. Where do you think all these films that are being shot in the UK, where they're getting these tax credits? Where's that tax money coming from? It's coming from the paychecks. It's coming from the paychecks of people in the United Kingdom.
You're telling me that they're taking money from Joe and Juan and they're giving it to Mickey. And that's the trick of it.
And in the case of the United Kingdom, we're taking it from Winston and Bartholomew.
Yeah. And
hello, you're taking my money from my check and giving it to tax credits for Americans. Hello.
But a lot of
you. We're getting Indiana Jones, the Dial of Destiny, darn it.
That's the bottom line, is the quality of the product, of course. But often when we talk about these revelations that Valiant and you guys come up with from these tax records from the UK, for example, what people don't understand when they say, well, they get X percent and it's this many $1 million, it's not on the stars. It's not on the directors and the producers. It's not on anybody back in the home office in Burbank. It is designed specifically to create employment in that locale. And that's true for some of these cities and states that do it for building stadiums in this country, or the various states competing over the tax breaks. And there hasn't been one of them in history after statistical analysis that has shown it paid its way. Not one. And by the way, if to add insult to injury,
that as a ignoramus, you would know.
Well, but if you add insult to injury, if the net result is we're going to get more people working by giving up all this tax money, so our people will love us. But by the way, we're also cutting their taxes, so we're not getting as much of a piece of it after it's all said and done to pay back the money we're giving away.
Fantastic.
So, that's another side to think about.
Real quick, let me show you how this is being handled by the media, okay? It's really important. We'll get both of your thoughts on this. This is out of, and let me get this is out of the Telegraph, excuse me. Out of the Telegraph, J.D. Vance pours cold water on Trump's talk of abolishing income tax. Hyped up move to replace levy with high tariffs is aspirational, says his running mate. This is an article that is by Sabur. Yeah, Rosina Sabur, deputy U.S. editor. In other words, she's highly placed. She's not just an author. She is the deputy U.S. editor. Not sure when she was deputized, but she was.
I shot the sheriff, but I didn't shoot the deputy. I'll tell you that. So.
Yeah, you better not, because she's tough stuff. Donald Trump's suggestion that he may abolish income tax is not a campaign policy, but an aspirational goal, his running mate has suggested.
Right.
And pay attention to suggested there when they say that, because they don't say his running mate said. They say suggested. The Republican presidential candidate has hinted several times at the idea of ending federal income tax. He first floated the idea in June. Says when we were a smart country in the 1890s, it had all tariffs. It didn't have income tax. Now we have income taxes, and we have people that are dying. They're paying tax, and they don't have the money to pay the tax. However, J.D. Vance, his vice presidential candidate, appeared to pour cold water on the idea during an interview with NBC News on Sunday. Okay, well, how did he do that? Let's get to it. Asked whether Trump would pursue a policy of abolishing federal income tax in a second term, Mr. Vance said Donald Trump didn't propose that. He said that as an aspirational goal. What is very real about what Donald Trump has actually proposed, specific policy proposals, is that we want to eliminate taxes on tips. We want to eliminate taxes on overtime pay. That's the Donald Trump policy proposal. He's talking aspirationally about something that he himself thinks is less of a focus than cutting taxes on tips. And here's the tell. Here's where you can get in this and figure out something doesn't smell right about the article. Vance added, is it on the table with the Democratic Congress that we have? I don't think that's realistic. Okay, pause for a moment, folks.
Politics is the art of the possible, as the song says.
Well, if this guy in the photo wins, it stands to reason that he'll win both sides of the congressional houses. He'll get the Senate and the House. And so then you got to say to yourself, well, if he gets both of those, then you don't have a Democratic Congress. So then it makes you say, well, what was Vance asked exactly that got this final statement here? Because it's unlikely that this guy wins and doesn't also win the power of the Congress. Anyway, that's the tale.
Well, wait a minute. That presumes the Congress is going to go along with him because they have vested interest in having all these government programs too. That's true as well. And that's the issue I was going to make when Mike was talking about Disney and the other companies. There is a basic misunderstanding among most Americans that I know, which is that the big companies suffer the worst from big government. They don't.
Right.
They win. The reason they do well, even though it costs them a lot of money in taxes and regulatory expenses, is because they're better equipped to do that than all the smarter, brighter guys who are coming up their butt trying to beat them.
Right.
It's a way for them to freeze out the competition.
Right, because they afford the lobbyists and because it turns into a corporate oligarchy.
Yeah. So that's why we see all these people that in theory should be on quote unquote our side, and they're on the other side.
Right. So Mike, here's my question to you. And Mike, your microphone's muted at the moment.
There's absolutely zero chance that the income tax will be abolished.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say to you is that's why we've been so careful in this video to talk about a radical reduction, which I think is much more likely. Okay, go ahead.
That's what I was about to say. What's likely to happen would be some dramatic radical, if you want to use your language, dramatic. What I was going to say is dramatic change. Now, just those three things are dramatic. If you could literally eliminate tax on service workers, tax on overtime, just even those two, that will fundamentally free up all kinds of things in this economy, because there's HVAC companies, service companies, electrical companies, all these companies that keep us in the quality of life that we have. When that overtime kicks in at time and a half, it's time and a half the taxes, time and a half the taxes for the employer, time and a half the taxes on the employee, and it will just free things up tremendously. I also think with the hits that the food and beverage industry has taken, if there were the taxes related to service workers, that would be a huge boom, because it is a large segment of the economy. And that, of course, applies to places like Disney, where guess what? They employ thousands and thousands and thousands of service workers at the restaurant.
But let's remember that in the case of tips on waiters and things, they reduce the minimum wage and use that as a fill-in. In other words, if the minimum wage for everybody in other businesses is $10 an hour, they'll make waiters $8.50, presuming they're going to make the $1.50 in tips. But we're talking on the retail side. I'm saying, like, on the retail side, to the person that's not having to declare taxes on tips, yada yada yada, it frees up more cash for them to be able to do the things they want. Yeah.
Well, so let me ask this as our final question. Both of you, anybody can take it in whatever order you want. Based on our conversation, it sounds to me like whether or not it's a Republican or a Democrat or a Libertarian or a Green Party or whoever it is that does this, whoever reduces the income tax significantly, whatever the implications might be for the debt, whatever other secondary and tertiary effects there might be, one of the direct impacts appears to me after this conversation to be that the entertainment and tourism industries would see a boom. But they don't want it. Is that fair, guys? Have we got that correct? Or am I simplifying it too much?
The boom would be mitigated by this change in attitude that the current economy has taught people. And also on the quality of the product. I don't care if it's half the price and tax-free, and oh boy, if it's Agatha, then it's still bad,
For the first time in forever, it's a purposeful joke. For the first time in forever, Lou, I thought Zegler had a chance next year. I thought Snow White with Rachel Zegler had a chance, and you took it away from her, Lou. Mike, you get
weird.
But I'm excited being in the income tax business. My clients I think we're far overdue for income tax overhauls, especially for people who are suffering. It pains me when I see I use ADP to process all my clients' payroll. The amount of money that people pay that's taken out of their checks is just, I think it's criminal. I mean, taxation is theft, and calculating it is what I do for a living. And if they were to say tomorrow that the income tax was gone, I am so excited for that if that happened, I'd be excited to find another industry to work.
And then, Mike, when you came back on the channel the next time, we would see down there, folks, where it says corporate and tax expert and non-YouTuber. Well, the non-YouTuber is never going to change. Mike is never going to become a YouTuber. But instead, it would say tariff and international corporation expert. That's what
right, baby. I'd go international, right. Mexican Iron Man, international tax.
That's right. Just like the Ray movie script, Mike would be evolving.
I would ship, baby.
All right, folks, you can help us be revolving all over this great, big, beautiful web by clicking the like button, share, subscribe, click it, and stick it to those pesky algorithms. It is the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts and share with us, please, what do you think about taxes, entertainment, and even the Joe Rogan experience, which we are still tracking as it is breaking all kinds of YouTube and media records. Folks, you can find Mexican Iron Man over on Midnight's Edge, where he's doing fantastic work. He's also the guru behind secretly so much success on YouTube, and he will never take credit for it publicly. But folks, just know he is a mover and a shaker, and it's not just rabbit chicken tacos that he's shaking. LW Ghost can be found at That Pod Place, as well as right here on this channel whenever we have the fortune to have him found on the panel. Gentlemen, thank you both for being here today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, folks.
It was not in any way a taxing experience.
Oh, it's a dad joke of a ghost kind of level.
IRS my case.
Wait, somebody stop him. It's my job to do so. Until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
I'm the ghost of Star Wars.
You know what would be a real treat this Halloween? Checking out WDW Pro. He's got all the sweet news on his Thursday live show at 5 p.m. Eastern.
Not to mention, his daily videos are a real treat.
Guys, I'm the ghost of Star Wars. Get it?
You know, we should go and make sure we're subscribed.
Guys, I'm the ghost of Star Wars.
And while we're at it, we'll ring that bell to make sure we're notified.
Great, let's go. Because, well, we actually care about that. Let's go.
Fact. Star Wars is not dead. It's haunting the staffs of Disney Plus.